There's an anti-woke children's book that's now being pushed to combat, all those teachings of CRT, LGBTQ, knowledge, equality, all that, and they're replacing them now because they want to have American icons being taught about. Back to when we loved our country. Let's check out this ridiculous ad.
Have a good day. I just sent my kids off to school, but do I really know what I will be getting back? Honestly, this is troubling. I mean, let's face it. Our kids are being virtually brainwashed by woke messages in schools and in children's literature. Why teach young children that something is inherently wrong with their body, their color, or their country? Why not teach values such as personal responsibility, courage, freedom, and the willingness to sacrifice for such values? Don't even get me started on the quality of the storytelling, as my beloved grandma would say.
That's about as lame as a horse overdue for the glue factory.
That's why I was so happy when my good friend Christine told me about Heroes of Liberty,
a new biography series for children that was created to do something that once was obvious. Tell great stories with tales about people who lived inspiring lives and who were devoted to the values that made this country great. These books are created by world-class illustrators and writers and are delightful and as American as apple pie. I bought this. We can't change the school systems overnight, but we can reclaim these magical moments of bedtime.
You would think we live in a completely different world. Just that last part, we can't change the school systems overnight. So what have the school systems been? What have the school systems been this entire time when it comes to educating kids about history? Because I guess it's been about talking about the true horrors of our past and the things that we've done. Sure, tell those inspiring stories, which are great to tell, but we're excluding the reasons why we had to have inspiring figures in history to try to fight back against the regularity of horrors. Now, one of those horrors was Andrew Jackson. I wonder if he stands out in one of those books. Because Andrew Jackson, let's go to this first graphic. He was the commander-in-chief from 1829 to 1837 in the United States of America. Signed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which authorized, beyond his time in office, the violent forced displacement of approximately 100,000 indigenous peoples amid the country's westward expansion. Over 15,000 people from different tribal nations died on what came to be called the Trail of Tears. In case you didn't know, that's why we call it that. So what are they teaching about Andrew Jackson? Is he in these books about one of these American heroes because he expanded our westward motion throughout the land, killing people? Let's get to some of those details of it. To this third graphic here, you guys. Reverend Daniel Buttrick, a missionary who administered in the Cherokee territory for 20 years, wrote, from their very first arrest, they were obliged to live very much like brute animals. And during their travels, were obliged at night to lie down on the naked ground in the open air, exposed to wind and rain, and herd together, men, women, and children, like droves of hogs. And in this way, many were hastened to a premature grave. They killed them horribly and horrifically and violently. American history going on. Under the terms of the 1819 treaty, the United States guaranteed that Cherokee land would be off limits to white settlers forever. Forever lasted about 20 years. American history. So when you put your kids to bed and you read about Andrew Jackson, one of our great commanders in chiefs, and they're laying down like she wasn't into that, and you go, Andrew Jackson made tons of indigenous folks sleep on the ground with their children, unlike how you're sleeping right now, dying. American history. That's why they don't want to teach it. That's why they think the kids will suddenly hate their country. But what the kids will start hating their country over is when they find out you've been lying to them.
Absolutely. I mean, like, what are they gonna say about Andrew Jackson? Just like, and that showed leadership. It is difficult to do genocide. I mean, many people look, Hitler, like where are we going with this? At this point, these are the same people who are like, Hitler was bad, but wow, what a leader. Like there are, like that's very real in this country right now. History, as the late great Howard Zinn, who I believe there was an anniversary of his death this week. He talked about the fact that history is written by white people and rich people.
Totally.
And his people's history of the United States did the opposite and said, well, let's tell this history from the Cherokee perspective. Let's tell our American history from the slave perspective. Would it be so wrong to do what we haven't done throughout history and humanize the very people who were exploited, who were terrorized, whose land was stolen? That's not hating white people. That is having an eyes wide open like attitude towards history. My favorite part about that entire commercial, which is bonkers in every way, mostly because like that music is like literally what happens inside like some white people's brain, just like you know, like is that one of the books that they showed was called I Need a New Bum. And I really got to read that. I just got to say, like, one of the books, there's like, oh, our children are being indoctrinated with I need a new bum. That sounds like a banger to me. And there you go. I need a new bum. What is that? Let's talk about that.
That's one of those things they don't want your kids to know about because, bums are nasty to be talked about.
Exactly. Bum. What is a bum? You don't have a bum. We don't talk about bums until 8th grade.
And it started with fear. Before we move on, it started with absolute fear. When I send my kids off, I don't know what I'm gonna get back. Why do you send your kids anywhere? Why do they go anywhere if you don't know what they're gonna get back? It doesn't make any sense because it absolutely doesn't have to.